question. But one question out of curiosity for me is just to get your take, and I don't want to get you in trouble here, so you can tell me this could get you in trouble, so you don't have to answer it. But what do you think about like a single payer system? And the only reason I ask is because Medicare Medicare pays for, and Medicare and Medicaid pay for kind of the vast majority of, I think, cancer patients in the U.S. Or at least a huge proportion of cancer patients, and that's pretty much like a government insurer, right? In some ways. So how do you think about that? Do you think it's feasible in the U.S., or is it something? Hey, you know what? It at least for this current situation in this current environment, it's not necessarily the right approach.
So it's very interesting because I've worked in various health systems. UK has a single payer system. I worked there for close to 4.5 years. And each system has its own strengths and weaknesses. So I had a friend who's very big researcher in Paris. He's one of the top guys in the top institution making vaccines. And his aunt had cholangiocarcinoma during COVID time. And I recommended NGS testing, and UK system said no, she's old. She was fully fun. She actually was one of the Broadway theaters actress, but she was denied because she's more than 75. Another example from Canada. So I got a call from a friend of mine, and I don't want to kind of bash system. I just want to say strength and weakness. So a friend of mine, a guy called me from Canada and said, my mother is a stage 4 colon cancer, and she has been alive for about 14 months now, and now she's progressing. They said there's no choice. She's too old. So I said, can we do the NGS testing, from peripheral blood, the liquid biopsy? Nope. Yeah, she was denied. So I arranged for her to come to US. I said, why don't you drive her down from Vancouver to Seattle? I arranged for a sample to be picked by a liquid biopsy company. That lady went to India to die because she thought she was going to die in about 2-3 weeks' time. We found PIK3CA in her. So even though she had colon cancer, I arranged for the pick rate to be sent over to her. She's alive a little over a year and a half now.
Wow.
So coming back to, yes, I think the health system becomes expensive when you look into the private sector here. I think if we break the silos, whether you are in the single payer system or whether you are here, when everybody comes together and said, we are here for philanthropy, humanitarian purpose, let's put aside our profit margin only. Let's look into how can we make things better. I think that would work. And ours is a perfect example. I work with about 7 different payers. I work with the state Medicare, Medicaid. And there's a process in place that we have. So I'm going to actually write an article about bringing 4 Ps together. You'll see within the next 3-4 weeks with the CEO and CMO of 2 large payers in our state to show that if you bring stakeholders together, whether you're a single payer, whether you are you can always provide care. At the end of the day, our purpose is to heal. We are the healers. And so to your question, I think I like the single payer system because it's less of the bureaucracy. But then there are challenges. I mean, I'm struggling with someone in Toronto who the kid needs bone marrow transplant. He has second relapse in ALL. And I spoke with the chief of the transplant unit, and they were hesitant. So kid is going to go to India for a transplant.
Wow. No, I think you're absolutely right. It's not to pit anyone against each other, but I think
Exactly.
you highlight I think exactly this is the case I try to make to everyone as well. And I'm born and raised in Canada. I love Canada, and I very much appreciate the system here. But every single system has its pros and cons. No one system is going to be the greatest thing, right? It's not going to solve all the problems. I think that's absolutely correct. And I like how you focused on, if people come together and tackle the core problem, right, which is how to deliver the best health, right? Then the system that does it, in some ways, doesn't really matter.
And our system, US has a lot of issues. I mean, I think pre-authorization, pre-cert takes a lot of time. Why do your guidelines then? If you have NCCN guidelines, and if a practice consistently follows category 2A, there should be no issue about pre-authorization, but then it adds a layer, delays the treatment, and I've seen complications and hospitalization arising from this system as well. So every system has its own fault, but we as a professionals ought to come together and say our common theme is to heal the person who needs healing, and that's how we can make any system better.